Okay, welcome back everybody. This is Rhino Fundamentals, and today it's gonna get hot in here because we're talking about hotkeys. So how hot? Well, I was thinking something like this. Yeah. So if the keyboard isn't on fire by the end of this episode, I think we failed. So, okay, enough joking around. I don't like to, I think we need to be serious about this because hotkeys are a serious topic. If it weren't for hotkeys, I would be modeling so slow. I'd be like stuck in 2017. So we don't want to joke around too much about hotkeys. This is serious stuff. Okay. So let's just jump right into it. Basically, I'm going to be talking about two major things. We're going to be talking about using hotkeys with my left hand on the keyboard, and we're going to be talking about using hotkeys on my mouse. Okay, so we're going to get to the mouse thing, and I'll explain what's going on there. I basically have these 12 buttons on my mouse that I've assigned to certain hotkeys. Okay, and by the way, if you don't know what hotkeys are, basically we have access to commands, as you know, and we can access those commands by going to our panels, our icon panels, or we can type them in. But I don't want to type as much as possible. I don't want to be typing. I don't want to be searching through the panels because I just want to get the commands as quick as possible, because we're going to be doing thousands of commands for each model. So we can save tons and tons of time if we can get as many commands onto our hotkeys as possible. Okay, so I'm just looking for, basically I've made a drawing here to show. I'm basically looking for all the keys that are close enough to my left hand that I can make these key combinations without moving my left hand too much. So I'm using all of the most used commands on the easiest to access, the key combinations with the easiest access. Okay, that's basically my approach here. And so I'm basically looking at which keys are accessible, how many different key combinations are accessible, and how many can I remember. I don't know which limit is going to come first, but that's basically what I'm doing. There's only so many key combinations that I'm going to be able to remember, but basically we have access to a bunch of these letters, and we can do Control plus a letter, or we can do Control Shift plus a letter, or we can do Control Alt plus a letter. So we have three different combinations for each letter that we have, each letter and number that we have, that we can reach with our hand. And at some point I'm definitely going to get a more ergonomic keyboard, and I can probably get a better reach to different letters. So let's just go through some of the fundamental hotkeys that I have set up. So if we go to Document Properties, and then we can go to Keyboard, and that will open up a list of the commands, the hotkey assignments. Okay, so some of the we'll just like look at some of the basic commands that I have set up, and we won't go through all of them. But Control A, I have Control A assigned to Polyline. I know Control A is usually used for Select All in most softwares, but Polyline is one of the most commonly used things for me, so I wanted to get it to a really accessible hotkey assignment. Okay, Boolean Union, I have a few different Boolean operations assigned to different hotkeys. I have Boolean Difference is Control Alt D, Boolean Union is Control B, stuff like that. Copy to clipboard is default. We have Control D is distance, so I can measure things, and Control Shift D is length. So if it's just a curve and we don't need to measure point to point, it's going to be faster just to do Control Shift D so that we can measure the length of the curve. For example, Control E, we can extrude a curve, and you can just set up. You just need to look at
which commands you're using the most often, and just find a nice key combination for those commands, right? So it's gonna depend on type of modeling that you do and what commands you're using the most often. Okay, so I've got trim, stuff like that. Let's look at sort of a little bit more of a unique case. So when it comes to my move command, I have two different things set up here. So I have a regular move command, so I'm using Control Q, and that way I can move in the X and Y plane very easily. But very often I want to move in the Z plane. So what we could do is we can activate that command, move, and then we can do vertical equals yes. We can hit that option. But I want to avoid as much clicking and as much moving the mouse as possible. So I don't want to go and hit that vertical equals yes, and I don't want to have to type in V and enter. So what I did is I set up a hotkey. So the normal move is Control Q. That's move. But I also set up Control Shift Q, and what that is it's move plus vertical equals yes. And so as soon as you put in plus, and then you put in the option, and then what you want that option to be, then it will automatically select that option when you do that hotkey assignment. So when I hit this and I do Control Shift Q, it will automatically do move plus vertical equals yes. And so now I can move in the vertical plane. So that's a super, I use that hotkey all the time. That's a super important one. But I should note that when it comes to move, the vertical is always default to vertical equals no. Okay, and so that means that my normal move hotkey is just move, and my vertical hotkey is move plus vertical equals yes. But that's only because the default is no, and that's not how it always works. So I'll show you an example. So when it comes to mirror, if I have a hotkey for mirror, which is Control Shift A, and that mirror will actually we'll just do the type. We'll type it in mirror, and we can mirror it here, and we have a few different options, but the one that I'm going to most is whether or not I'm copying it, and I use both. I copy or not copy. I do both often, and if we can avoid it, we don't want to do a copy and then delete the original one. We want to work fast, right? We can avoid those redundant steps in the modeling process. So if I don't want to copy it, then I'm going to click no. And what's going to happen next time is it's going to be the same option. It's going to be copy equals no. Okay. But if I do copy equals yes, then the next time it will be copy equals yes. So the point is, these options, this option at least, it doesn't have a default. It's going to be whatever you set it to last time. Unlike the move command, where the default is always vertical equals no, this does not have a default. So the point here is that if you want to set this up in your hotkeys, you're gonna have to set up one, like for example, Control Shift A is mirror plus copy equals no, so that it will select no. And then Control Alt A for me is mirror plus copy equals yes. So if the option doesn't have a default, you have to set up both opposing options in your hotkey assignment. So I just thought I should mention that, and that will apply to. I have the same thing. You can do the same thing with rotate or any of those things. And since we're talking about rotate, I should mention I have rotate set up so that I try to keep similar commands onto similar keys, but with the differences using shift or something. So the regular rotate is Control R, and I can do my rotation like that. And I also have Control Shift R is my rotate 3D, because I use both of them very often. And just so that I can remember where they are, I wanted to keep them on the R, but I basically have those two different rotate options depending on whether I just do Control R or Control Shift R. So I find that to be helpful. Let's see if there's anything else that we wanted to look at in terms of the keyboard, and then we'll move on to the mouse. I'm using like split. For a circle, I just do Control W, and for a cylinder, I do Control Shift W. So the same concept. You definitely want to get your edit points onto some type of hotkey, and your edit points, and I would definitely say get your solid points onto a hotkey, because those are super useful for modeling and for the efficiency. So edit points and solid points, and point off, also have the ability to turn your points off in one of these hotkeys. I also have scale 1, 2, and 3D assigned to Control 1, 2, 3, and I find I use those very often. There is one more that I wanted to definitely touch on, which is move target to objects, and this is probably the most important hotkey, actually, in my opinion. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen me talk about this in one of the posts. Move target to objects. This is what it does. So right now I'm working on this one, but my camera is panning around some other object, so that's kind of annoying. And I may not have the best zoom control. I definitely don't have the best orbit. So I'm gonna click on that, and then I'm gonna do move target to objects. And then once we've done that, now we have perfect orbit control around this object. We have perfect pan control and perfect zoom control. And if we go to a different part of the model, we're gonna, if I'm working on this control knob or something, I may not have the best control orbit control around that. So I can just do move target to objects, and now we have perfect pan control around that object. And this is super useful when we're navigating around big models and we're zooming in, zooming out a lot. This is just going to be it's going to make your workflow way more efficient, so that you can get down to that part of the model that you're working on, and you can get your camera orientated around it properly, and you can work a lot better. And I'll mention, someone commented on my Instagram post. He said, hey, you can use Control S and then Enter, and it will do something very similar. So that's pretty cool. I'll just show you guys like what's going on there. So if it's a bit of a different strategy, because move target to objects won't change the camera location, but so this one's a bit different. It's kind of interesting. It might work better depending on the case. So you can do what you can do is ZS, and a lot of the zoom commands are actually they can be abbreviated. So we have zoom selected and we have zoom extents, and so we can do ZS and then we can do Enter, and then it will blow up. It'll move the camera location so that that object kind of fills the screen, and it will move the target to that object. So you can use those two functions or anything like that if you want, or you can put zoom selected into a hotkey if you want. And so that's the basic stuff that I wanted to cover when it comes to the hotkeys that I use on my keyboard. And now let's just talk about these hotkeys that I have on my mouse. So I have this Logitech G600. It's a gaming mouse, and it has these 12 hotkeys on the side, and it has also an extra 2 buttons on the top. So what's my strategy here? Basically, I've set up these 12 keys to some key combinations that are really hard to reach with my left hand, because if I'm going to be assigning these to key combinations, I'm not going to waste good key real estate. So I'm going to give it the cheap real estate, right? So Control Shift and then all the F keys are hard to reach with just my left hand. So I'll just give those up to the mouse, and then I can use all of those key combinations in my hotkey assignment. So what I've done here is we have hide A, B, and C. Okay, so what is that? Well, a normal hide function. Let's look at normal hide and show. Okay, if I want to edit the pocket down here, I'm gonna take this thing and then I might I should mention that I've set this button up to be hide, and I've set this button up to be show, so we can use that. So I'm going to hide that with my mouse super quick, and then I'm going to hide these potentiometers in this switch. And then if I want to edit this surface, this poly surface down here, and then if I want to see how those potentiometers are fitting, then I'm going to show the objects, but I didn't want this cover to show up. I just wanted those objects to show up, okay? And so that's kind of annoying, because then I'm going back here, then I'm hiding it again. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. It's kind of unnecessary, and we can avoid that. That's a redundant process that's just slowing us down. So what we can do instead is we use hide A, B, and C, and we can see that in here. This is how I noticed it. We have to format it with this dash, so it's dash hide A, dash hide B, etc. And then we have dash show A, dash show B, dash show C. So we can take the cover, for example, we can do hide A, and then so we want to edit this poly surface down here. So we can just take these potentiometers, we can do hide B, and then we can apply our edits and whatever, and we just want to see how those potentiometers are fitting, so we can go show B, and the potentiometers come up, but the cover doesn't come up. So that's pretty cool. This is a function that I use all the time, which is why I have it so close to me. I mean, my thumb is already on these buttons basically, so it's super close. A great tool. And in terms of the rest of these buttons here, the back ones, I'm using a very similar strategy: lock A, B, and C, and unlock A, B, and C. Okay, and I'll just mention this is show A, B, and C, and this is hide A, B, and C, show A, B, and C, lock A, B, and C, and unlock A, B, and C. So that's my strategy. You guys can do it, however you want, if you want to set this thing up. And what we can do with that is like this. I don't need to edit this thing right now, maybe, so I can do lock A, and but I may not want to unlock this, but I might want to unlock this this other part of the model, right? And so I can do unlock B, and that will unlock this part of the model. And but this part of the model is still locked, so I'm not going to be able to edit it. Okay, so that's useful. Both these, the show A, B, and C, and the lock A, B, and C, these are really useful for like architectural models when you have like tons of walls and windows and window frames and doors and stuff like that. A lot of this stuff you do obviously want to set it up in a good organized layer system. And that will take care of some of your visibility issues, but sometimes you're just working quickly on a certain part of it and you just want to hide it quickly and whatever. And sometimes, like, I have like 100 layers here, at least, maybe. So I don't want to make any more layers, so sometimes this is like a super useful feature. And so that's basically my approach to hotkeys. Unfortunately, we didn't light it on fire because I can't really afford a new laptop. Although it would be pretty. I mean, maybe I could make enough money from like the ad revenue from this video if I lit this computer on fire, but I'm not gonna risk it this time. But hopefully that got hot enough. I'm super obsessed with this kind of stuff because I want to be as efficient as possible. I want to be able to sit down and spend as little time modeling and as much time being creative and not doing unnecessary work. I think it's really important to set up these systems so that we don't drain ourselves and we're being creators and we're not just being modelers. So that's why I'm kind of obsessed with this type of thing, and this is a work in progress. We'll probably make another video like this as I find more different methods. And on that note, if you guys have any cool ideas, I would love to hear what you guys are doing to work more efficiently, and what kind of like hotkeys you're using and stuff like that. I'd love to know what you guys are doing. But hopefully this video has been valuable to you, and let me know in the comments
and I'll see you guys in the next video.